On this episode of Cars with Cory, we're going to be putting a car stereo and 2 speakers in my 1998 EZ-GO TXT. I'm going to do it with stuff I have laying around, something that anybody can do. I'm going to show you how. As mentioned, 98 EZ-GO TXT. This is a Freedom model. Nothing fancy other than a set of wheels and tires, no lift kit, no radio, no nothing. For my purposes, I sure don't use it to golf, but still equipped with all of the baskets and gear for golfing, I guess. But pretty solid unit. Not the newest batteries in the world, but they work. I've taken it about a mile or so, and it's used about a bar or two of battery. But it's got a nice tinted windshield. Barely fits on my lift, but I got it on there. It's a little sketch, but it does work. This one, everything works. I got it pretty cheap, 2,500 bucks. One of those deals where saw it on Marketplace, dropped everything, and went and picked it up. So, nice enough golf cart, but it's missing one big thing right here. We have just enough room for a DIN-size stereo. I think we're going to go ahead and put our speakers down here and here. They do make pods to do this with. However, I'd rather just run wires and put some speakers in. Make it easy. So, let's get started. So one of the harder parts about this job is going to be picking a stereo. I build custom stereo units that run off of Bluetooth, or just kind of like a Bluetooth speaker. You have to plug them into the wall. But for that reason, I keep a pretty extensive collection of car stereos. I got a lot of great Alpines over here. I got some mid-2000s and middle grade Pioneers over here. I got a Dolphin deck right there for those who remember that one. A couple of vintage Pioneers, factory unit. Don't know what to do with that, but I was hoping to pick out of these three. These are a little more modern Alpine, but they do not have a changer port or an aux in. This one does. It does on the front, though. I prefer to have it on the back, so I'm gonna have to make a decision. I may go with the CDA 9886 here, one of the better Alpines at the tail end of when they made stuff pretty decent, but I don't know if I'm gonna put that nice of a stereo in a golf cart. That might get wet, things like that. So I'm gonna have to make up my mind, but for right now, all I really need to do is concentrate on getting that hole enlarged in. So for speakers here, I've got a set of Kicker Marine speakers. I got these as kind of a thank you for doing a guy's boat. So these are brand spanking new. Should work fine. I believe they're 6.5. These are Marine speakers, so they'll go nicely in a golf cart application. So if I can get them out of here, my gosh. Yeah, so you can see there, 6.5 inch. This one actually, this one has a separate woofer, so it's got the tweeter, which kind of bridges over top. These will organically sound a whole lot better than your typical coaxial, where the tweeter is mounted and then it's mounted on a pedestal kind of down in there. See how that one, again, that one just floats. So these should sound really, really good on the golf cart, but got some white grills here, snap over the top just like that. So we'll have to go ahead and, like I said, cut some holes. We're going to do it kind of down by the legs there and get these mounted up. Got a cage for in here. Try to get the best shot of this I can. It's really tight. It's not as if it just kind of slides in there. It's a little short. I have it setting on the bottom edge right now, and you can see there isn't a large gap on the top. Take that out of there. You can see there's a good sized lip down here, and up top there's just this flange that comes straight down. Normally just cut this flange off and kind of jam it up to the top, but if I do that, trim ring is going to essentially have nowhere to go. So we're going to have to adjust that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this little flange, leave that tiny lip there, and then I'm actually going to have to take out of the bottom down here. Okay, I got you guys sitting up on the seat there. I'm going to go ahead and cut this upper flange out. Love that tool. So, cut the little upper flange piece out. Should slide in a little more easily now. Got some sanding to do up there, but next we'll move on down to here to the bottom. I'll get everybody a little better look here. Here's a piece that was formerly up here. I love the way that thing cuts straight. You just got to take your time. Next, I gotta pop this out of the back. That'll just be in the way there. So I'm gonna pop that out of the back, get a measurement. Probably gonna have to go right somewhere down the middle of this here. There'll still be a nice rigid edge on the front there. Latch onto. This is a little bit wider overall than the cage. Let's see here. There's quite a bit of extra space in there. We'll just have to center it up as best as we can. The trim piece will cover that. So next I'll pop that out, get some measurements, and get it fit in there. Okay, so we've got it all trimmed out. Cage is getting close. It's not quite fitting just yet. We're gonna have to get out the file. But as you can see, the back pieces are gone. We trimmed this about halfway down here, so there's still a lip there, but we had to take that base piece out. I would have preferred to leave that in there to give it something to set on, but we really had to take it, otherwise we would have had no room up there on top. So it's important we leave a lip up here for it to mount to. So I've got a little bit of sanding to do, filing I guess. I gotta bring these corners out a little bit farther to get it the width. It looks like height wise we're pretty close, so I'll probably just take this down by hand, this bottom edge here. So let's get that done and get this cage in here. So we got the cage installed. It's in there a little tight. As you noticed, I had to do quite a bit of filing to get that to fit, but good news, we got it centered in there good. No stereo here, but as you can see, the trim ring fits around. There is space all the way around it. It won't stay up there without a radio in there. I'll see if I can get it to balance here. But we have room, top, bottom, all the way around. Again, it is a little sloppy in here, left to right. The hole is actually a little too big. But as you can see, the trim ring fits, doesn't hit anything, so the stereo will slide right in from here. So there's a few different ways you can do this. My cart is a 36 volt. If you have three 12 volt batteries and you happen to have top and or a couple of options of posts like your regular battery terminals and then the wing nut type, you could just tap into one battery to run the radio. If you have a 48 volt or 36 volt with 6 volt batteries, you can get a converter, which will take that 36 or 48 volts down to 12 volts to run the stereo. What I'm going to do is a little unorthodox. I'm actually going to add a battery. I have all kinds of 12 volt batteries laying around here. So I have big ones, small ones. I have access to these tiny ones. They're no big deal to charge or big enough to charge a stereo, so I'm going to go with that. Fortunately, there's room underneath the seat. Besides the big bank of batteries, there's a little extra room in there, so I'll show you where I'm going to put it. So up underneath the seat here, we have our regular bank of 6 volt batteries. So there's a big old cavern right there. There's actually a little space over there too. Just for simplicity's sake, there's a lot of wires already running down the driver's side here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a battery in here. Like I said, you know, it'll be independent of the other ones. I'll have to charge it separately, but I don't plan on using this stereo a whole lot. So at least I can easily pull the battery, throw it on the charger a couple of hours, or just plug it in just like I would the normal 36-volt charger. So I've changed my mind. There's not a whole lot of room there as far as mounting speakers. There's the forward reverse switch. I've got a pretty tight angle in here to fit a speaker. The sides are not really protected. There's the ground down there. Could be flinging water up at them. They are marine speakers. They'd probably be okay. I've decided I don't really like the idea of the pods. Mine has a horn button down here. I actually plan on using it once in a while. Hopefully it doesn't stick on me, but that would occupy this whole space here. I set the speaker up and it's like right there. It's in the way of the brake. I mean, it's not really in the way, but it's right up on it. The other one over on the passenger side, there's plenty of room, but I think what I've decided to do is there's a void here. It's right behind the back seats, kind of underneath the baskets here. I'm gonna build a little enclosure down and just set it in here, mount it in there nice. The speakers will be behind the driver and passenger here, but I really like the idea of being able to just mount a tiny little speaker box right in here, face the speakers forward, and then in winter I can just unplug it, pull it out, put it back in the spring. So I think we're gonna go that route. So this went a little farther than I thought it would, so video 1 here might just be getting the wiring and the stereo in, and then video 2 we may do build a box for the speakers and mount them up. So let's get back to on the head unit here. We got to run wires to that area underneath the seat here for a battery. Like I said, there are already some wires natively running on this EZ-GO. There's a dash wire up yonder. You can see it going up under the dash there. It comes in right behind the stereo. Then we have the horn button, some other wires that are already routed underneath. So I think I'm going to take that route. So I'll get a harness started. I have enough wire around to make this work without buying a thing. So a little pro tip here, if you have a multimeter, before you go ahead and run all the wires all the way through, it's a good idea to do a quick continuity test. My Fluke here has a setting for continuity. It's this guy right here, if it'll zoom or focus. It's essentially continuity, so if you touch them together, it'll beep. I'm just going to illustrate with the ends of the wires here. I'm going to take one of the probes from each end of the wires, positive and negative, and with any luck, we'll hear a audible tone. So there we go. So good on that wire. Check the other one, speaker wire. Yeah, I think I didn't have it in there far enough last time, so there we go. Just a little pro tip: you don't want to run all these all the way through with loom. Get them all tied up and then hook them up, and they don't work. So a good quick check. I did have enough wire laying around. This is some of the cheapest speaker wire I've ever seen. It'll work for our application here. I did have to splice 2 pieces together, so I got up my soldering iron, soldered them up, heat shrinked them, and just wanted to make sure we have continuity. So little pro tip for you guys. All right, so we got a start on a harness here. Left and right speakers will run to the back, power and ground. You're probably thinking, well, what about a turn-on wire? I'll address that with a switch. I like using this wire loom. It's cheap. Sure, there are probably better things out there. This is what a lot of OEM manufacturers and the like use. So works well enough for me. There'll be the battery tap, and then we got our speaker wires way too long, but those will go back to the speakers behind the seat. So just want to get a shot of this for everybody. Really just your left and right speaker wires, positive and negative, to wherever the battery lands. So I like to put this loom on before I start stringing it through. Then if I need to, I can pull wires out of it, and I can make it shorter if necessary. So let's get it put in the cart. So I like to string wires back to front instead of front to back where I can. So got a little drop down here. This is steel, by the way. It's not a plastic piece, so I feel perfectly good about putting a battery there. But I'm just going to shove these down and start yanking them through and route them to the front. We've got our wires routed. Spot down in there where some existing wires came through, I just kind of poked them right up next to them. So no big deal. Ran through the front fairly easily. Came out under there. I just zip tied them to the existing looms, and nothing fancy here. Ran them down underneath. Again, zip tied them to the existing looms. So, and then right back up by the battery there. So As I mentioned earlier, I like to run the loom first, and here's a perfect example why. I could be fighting all this stuff on to go on here now, or could be fighting all this stuff to go in the loom, but now to make this the proper length, I just have to yank it out. And there's my battery wires right there already, and then all I gotta do is fling this up there where the speakers are gonna go and cut it short. Okay, we've got everything buttoned up back here, ready for the battery. Speaker wire is way too long, it's hanging right here. I think for now I'm just gonna leave this thing off, which apparently just sits on there, but I'll allow the speaker wire to run up through there temporarily till we get an enclosure built back there. So ready for the battery up here. We got to get a fuse holder in there. Everyone, please, if you're adding 12-volt wiring, you always want to put the fuse as close to the battery as possible, especially if it's a new circuit. That way, if you pinch a wire or something like that, it blows the fuse back here. If you have a pinch between here and where the fuse is, where the battery is, it'll burn all the coating off, blow up the battery, start a fire. So always put your fuse as close to the power source as possible. So we're going to go up here. I mentioned before we're going to put in a toggle switch to emulate the ignition. I probably could maybe try to wire it in there. I imagine it's 36 volt, the existing ignition switch, but it would just be easier if I just add a switch. I was contemplating where to put it. I just got one of these little cheap rockers with a light. I'd considered putting it up here right above, but I think I'm going to put it over here, down here on the side somewhere. Kind of out of sight, out of mind, and then the light will maybe shine in my eye as I jump off and remind me to turn the power to the stereo off. So I'm going to get that wired up, get a hole drilled down here for the switch itself, and plan ahead with all of my wires and get the stereo in. So before we decided to go ahead and mount the cage in, I had to decide on a stereo. It was not the one that I intended on, but it's the one I really wanted. The Alpine CDA 9886. This one lights up blue. Got kind of a neat OEL display. I'm an Alpine guy, actually. Put it in the comments. What do you guys like? Pioneer, Sony, JVC, Nakamichi, Kenwood. Touched them all, but always been kind of an Alpine fan. So this is way overkill, but as you can see, I don't exactly have a shortage of them, and I actually have two of them. We got another one right here, so won't be missing the other one. So we're gonna throw that one in. Along with that, eBay Bluetooth adapter hooks right into the AI net changer port. This is like 10 or 15 bucks. I did dig up this antenna. It just grounds. It's assuming you have a chassis ground, which a golf cart doesn't really have one, but I think it'll help where I'll be driving this. There's not much radio signal, and let's be honest, I'll be using the Bluetooth module most of the time anyway. So this is the one that's going in. I'm gonna go ahead and put the cage in, get everything wired up. I'll show everyone that before I pop it all in. All right, we've got our cage in. Tabs are bent down. It's in there securely, nice and tight. It will expand up into the gaps. The stereo will displace any. It's kind of bowed in the middle. They all do that till you get the radio in, but we got the harness for the radio wired up. We've got the ones we're not using capped off here. Got the antenna wired in. We'll see how that works with the ground. We've also got our AI net changer port for Alpine's that adapter into Bluetooth. So it basically kind of fools it into thinking it has a changer hooked up when actually it's a Bluetooth module. So kind of a neat deal. But so we have a temporary power source fired up. If I flip the switch, hopefully it lights up. And it does. So our Bluetooth module should be waking up. I think I saw a blue blinking light there for a second. And we're ready. So we're going to slip it in. I did temporarily hook up a couple of, these are my test bench speakers. They're not impressive. I bought them at a garage sale for swap meet or something for $5, but they'll work until we get our box built. So let's grab the radio and slap it in, see what happens. All right, we got a radio here. We're gonna plug it in and turn on the power and see if it comes to life. First, we got our antenna here. That guy plugged in. I always used to forget those when I did car stereo installs. I'd get it in and the radio wouldn't work. We've got our main wire harness. This is aftermarket. They fit super duper tight. There we go. And last but not least, let's get our AI net changer adapter plugged in. Oh, doesn't close up. There we go. So put it partially in. Let's flip the switch. See what happens. There we go. I hear it. And there it is. We got fuzz out of our test speakers, so let's go ahead and button it up. Okay, we got everything buttoned up here. Looks tight. Gaps look good. The trim ring barely went on, but it went on. There was just enough room, so I'm glad I cut that down a little farther than I guess I would have alluded to. I regret I had to cut the kind of shelf deal out of there, but let's see what happens. It's all wired up, it's all put away, so let's flip the switch. And there it is. There we go. Already got some nice royalty-free music going, so I really like this head unit. It's one of my favorites. I don't know how well the camera will do it justice. I love the gear display, so we got it going. Everything fits right. Everything's working right. We're in business. Now we just got to build ourselves a speaker box. Thanks for watching this episode of Cars with Cory. Hope you enjoyed the installation of the stereo on my 1998 EZ-GO TXT. So didn't get to the speakers like I planned. I will do another video on that, show you guys how I kind of build speaker boxes for small ones. We'll make that so we can take it in and out right behind me. But let me know what you thought. You know, we talked about kind of what's your favorite car stereo. $2,500. Is that a good deal on this thing? I feel like it was. Batteries seem to be okay. They are older, but they work just fine. Let me know if you guys want to see more of this type of content. I do this stuff on the side all the time. I made a comment in there back when I used to do car stereos. I still do them all the time. I just don't do it full time anymore. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If it can help you, one of your friends, relatives, something like that, feel free to share. And I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe. So we'll see you next time.